Gourmet number 9, The Days of the Four Kings.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Hungry Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the epically inducing, stomach growling inducing tale of Toriko. The last chapter saw us with, of course, the next volume starting up here, and sort of the next arc beginning, and you found them going to Gourmet City, Toriko and Komatsu, in search of Coco, one of the other four kings, supposedly the gentleman of the four kings, and still don't know a lot about these four kings, really nothing at all. Don't know who the other two are, don't know when or why they were given this title, but ultimately they are going to enlist Coco's help because they are going to, going to the lagoon, Cavern Lagoon, to get the puffer whale, the elusive puffer whale, who is very, very dangerous, kind of like a blowfish. And they actually, it's kind of cool because the world building in here is just magnificent. So let's dive right in, shall we? So the chapter starts off right where the last one, chapter begins right where the last one left off. God, I can't even think today, I should tell you. And basically, Coco is sitting there and he talks to him, and he calls him more or less like the glutton of the four kings, and not more or less, he calls him the glutton of the four kings. So kind of like the slob, the one, the overeater, which we've seen about Toriko. So then we go, and Komatsu goes and says something, and he says it out real loud, about the four. Oh, you're one of the four kings, or something like that. And it's kind of funny because he goes and Toriko says, you got to stop yelling out loud like that, Komatsu. It's kind of getting ridiculous. It draws a lot of attention and blah, blah. And then Coco goes and he kind of gives him this backhanded compliment. He's like, yeah, your oddness and weird awkwardness is actually kind of endearing. He's like, yeah, thanks for the backhanded compliment. So a bunch of people start coming out of their houses and they're like, oh, Master Coco got rid of the beast that's gone, because obviously he, kind of intimidated or got rid of that monster that was there before. And the next couple pages are them all like chasing him around. There's a bunch of women like, oh yeah, Coco, I'm gonna have your babies, and they're basically all just wanting to hang on Coco's nuts. And so he's obviously like the rock star of this town. His main line, he explains that his main line of work in the town is being this fortune teller, and a lot of people, because of the fact that he foresees when there's monsters going to be there, and then of course does like what he did and handily pushes them away when they are there. People love him for that. So we see that, and then we see them talking a little bit amongst themselves as they're kind of what he winds up offering Toriko a meal, right? So Toriko goes and grabs him, and he's like, all right, cool, we're going, and he gets him out of this mob, this crowd of people, and then we go and he talks about something about Toriko goes and mentions, he's like, oh, so where's Zebra? And I assume that's one of the other four kings, something about the old man's not going to like this, and where's Zebra? And then Coco says that he got arrested, and he got thrown in Gourmet prison, and we don't know why or for what or anything else, but they do show this cool double-page spread of you see Toriko, you see Coco, and then you see a guy with his back turned, this big hulking, menacing-looking guy, actually looks like the Hulk, and we're assuming that that's Zebra, and then there's a bunch of like monsters around him and everything, creatures, what have you, and he's like, oh, those were the good old days. So it's kind of like a flashback memory type thing, but it doesn't really go anywhere, So as they go and they're heading off towards Coco's house, he's like, oh, there's my house, and he's like, what the hell? And they show it, and it's really cool. This is where I like the world building stuff, because it's like a sheer cliff, right? And there's it's hundreds of meters down below till you get to the the trees and everything like that. And then there's like this out in the middle of that, there's like this cliff type deal just sort of jutting up and out, and there's a house on it like across from them. And Komatsu's like, how the hell are we gonna get there, right? And so Coco, like, I don't know, he whistles or motions or whatever, and all of a sudden this giant black crow comes over and he calls it Kiss, and he's like, oh, it's part of the family and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, hey, can you carry all three of us over there? So they wind up, he flies them over there, and the next thing you know, they're in Coco's home, and Toriko is eating his meal that he was given, and he's just rum, 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 rum. And Coco's trying to talk to him, but Toriko's not even really listening. And ultimately he winds up having the conversation with Komatsu, because Komatsu asks him, he's like, hey, are you able to extract the poison sac from the puffer whale? We also find out that even though it's called a puffer whale, that it's called like the flea, the puffer flea whale or something like that, because these things are basically the size of about a blowfish. They're not very big at all. And I guess what happens is that every time these things come around, every 10 years, like about 100,000 people that year die of poisoning. And the reason is because it's so highly toxic in the poison. And what you do is you have a lot of these chefs that can prepare a blowfish, which I was talking about in the last chapter. And so they think that they can also prepare the puffer whale. And Coco goes on to explain that even as good as he is, and he also explains about even 0.02 milligram of this poison in your bloodstream or hits your nervous system will kill you. But what happens with a lot of these is while they get caught, while they're being caught, their sac or whatever, their poison sac, or during extraction winds up, basically popping or whatever, and it contaminates the entire fish, right? The entire, meat of the fish. But that doesn't stop people from eating it anyway. And you think about it, I don't care if, I think what is there, like 7 billion people on Earth right now. 100,000 a year, that's unacceptable. That's an unacceptable loss in my book, So, that's, wow, that's a lot. But just real funny to see and hear the world building of things. So we wind up then getting some more of that because Coco goes and he explains. He's like, all right, here's the deal, right? And he lays out all the percentages, right? I'm like a numbers guy a lot of times, so I like seeing this. So he's like, all right, listen, I only 1 out of 2 that I capture. So I'm like at a 50% ratio. So if I capture 2, only one of them is actually going to be rendered not useless because of its sac, its poison sac exploding or whatever, right? So obviously these things are very delicate and there's a certain way to capture them too. I don't know if maybe when they get nervous or they feel like they're going to be captured or I have no idea how it works out exactly, but he basically says he's got a 50% chance of actually getting one and then being able to extract it. Now, out of those 2 that he captured, the one's is good, right? Out of that one, okay, he only has a 20% chance, 1 in 5 chance of actually extracting the poison sac from it, okay, without having some kind of problems, right? So he's like, you still want me on your team? So now you got to capture 10 of these things just to get one, realistically, by his numbers game that he played. Because if you think about it, if you capture 10, chances are 5 of them are there's only going to be 5 of them that you're going to be able to try to extract from. And he's only got a 1 in 5 chance of successfully extracting anyway. So very neat, very cool stuff, I think. But he's like, do you still want me to come with? And Toriko goes and looks up from his meal and he's just like, yeah, because I have a 0% chance of getting it. So then they go and he winds up saying, if he's going to take this job and this and that, and he's, and that's what it is. Toriko goes and offers Coco a lifetime meal card basically at the gourmet hotel, because where Komatsu works. And Komatsu's like, hey, leave my restaurant out of this, or leave the gourmet hotel out of this. And again, just real funny how it is. And then a little more of the world building, which I thought was really cool, and it showed a picture, which I am going to attempt to go in and show here as well, is the picture, where is it? Right there. There we go. Sorry, I had to look in the camera to see, and everything's opposite again. So excuses, Jim. So we have over there, we have Cavern Lagoon, and Coco explains that you can't. Well, I guess it's almost impossible to actually come in from the ocean side to swim. That's like 800 meters down or 1,000 meters down to this tip over here to then go and come back up into Cavern Lagoon. So what there is, though, is that it's 800 meters down. There is a network of these crazy-ass tunnels down there. Let's see here. Recent years. And then there was also something about... okay, and then he explains that your chances of getting down into there successfully are 0.1%. So that means that 1 in every 1,000 gourmet hunters can actually make it in there. The thing that I wanted to mention, though, is, what is this legendary beast? I forget the name of it. So, the devil python. I couldn't remember its name for the life of me. The devil python is in there. It doesn't say what its capture level is or anything like that. But this is said to be in these caverns. Not to mention there's other types of creatures, beasts, insects, whatever in these caverns. And it's a maze of caverns that goes down and through. So now you go and you break down the percentage chances, and it's like we're only 1 in 1,000 of even getting into there, right? And then if we get in there, we got to capture 10 of these things to successfully extract something from one. So I just thought it was really kind of cool, the whole, building up of everything, and just the pictures, the descriptions, that sort of thing. So to me, very, very cool stuff. So Coco obviously agrees to, and then they also go in and ask, Toriko asks him, he says, do you see Komatsu and my death in your, in our future, because you can obviously have this fortune-telling ability. So he goes and he kind of just hesitates, doesn't say anything, and he's like, okay, fine, I'll come with. So you assume that means that, okay, he hasn't seen these two dying in the future. But as the chapter comes to a close, a couple pages before the end of it, it shows him, and he says, I do see some death, basically like a loss of life. And I don't know if that's for the other gourmet hunters or what, but it's certainly not going to be an easy task, we know. So then the last double page is actually at the cavern leading into, that goes down to this labyrinth of caverns that goes down into Cavern Lagoon. And there's a guy just running like hell out. He's like, Zongi, Zongi! So you can assume that it's one of Zongi's guys, right? That guy that we met in the last chapter that was trying to intimidate and kind of bitch out Toriko. And he goes, and as he's running, all of a sudden this huge looking, I don't know, it's like an insect or something. I don't know if it's like a giant ant or a spider or something like that comes behind it. And he's chasing after him or whatever. And then in the next panel, just, and he's gone, right? You just see like the blood, the blood splatter type thing. So it's kind of just to kind of get us a little bit excited and gear us up for what's to come, And I certainly think it's kind of cool. So that is how the chapter ends. My chapter question ultimately is, do you like, and I've asked something similar before in One Piece when it comes to maps, but it was like 100 or something chapters ago. So do you like not the world building aspect of things, but the visualization of things that they put in this or other type of mangas? And by that I mean when they not only talk about things, but then they kind of go and they show you a picture of what it would look like, or a map or whatever, to give you an idea. I personally like that. I like seeing the map and just kind of picturing in my head, okay, that's what the author had in mind, And I think from time to time it's very nice. So, but brothers and sisters, let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button for me after you have a meal. And if you think I deserve it, of course, and the meal was good. And subscribe if you haven't done so already. I shouldn't base my likes, though, on the meal that you have, because I have no idea what you got going on at your place. So, but, we will look forward to catching you in the next one, Nation.
Coco says, join the Nerd Nation, please. I will join.